Part 21. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 203. Tisk, never mind them. Anyway, this group of Navy has withdrawn, and we have reached a safe area, and now that Bayou is awake, we won't suffer any loss. Yo-ho! In order to celebrate Bayou's safe awakening, I propose to hold a banquet to celebrate. The nervous Luffy cheered with excitement. I agree. Sanji is finally back, I'm going to have a good meal. Zoro agreed. Ha ha ha, then let me show off my skills today. Robin-chan, Nami-san. Bang bang. It hurts. Sanji rolled up his sleeves like a spring brother and received 2 big bumps on his head. The face that was so happy just now suddenly turned into tears. Oh, I'm also looking forward to the dishes that light up. Yeah. Be sure to eat well today. Coke, Coke, carbonic acid, none of them can be missing. Amidst Luffy's cheers, everyone quickly left the Navy matters to the Kingdom of Java and happily started to discuss the banquet. As the rich aroma spreads on the boat, plates of glowing dishes were gradually brought out from the kitchen one after another by Nami and others, and placed neatly on the long table on the deck. Very fragrant. Let's eat, let's eat. I want to eat meat, eat meat. Holding the knife in one hand and the fork in the other, Luffy, who had been salivating for a long time, couldn't wait to yell while wiping the saliva from the corner of his mouth. One hand turned into rubber and popped out with lightning speed, directly piled up from the tray. I took out a piece of Zaishin's meat. I was about to take a bite to satisfy my craving while no one was paying attention, but the aroma hadn't hit my stomach yet. The next moment, an electromagnetic flash suddenly lit up in the air. I was stunned. And hit the piece of meat in Luffy's hand. Electromagnetic gun. Idiot Luffy. Bayou is the main contributor to this, and he hasn't eaten it yet. Nami's yell, followed by the electromagnetic flash, rang in Luffy's ears. Relying on the rubber's restraint on lightning, Luffy resisted the blast. Although his body was a little burnt, he didn't care. The sky was huge and the earth was huge. Eat the most meat. Ouch. So delicious, Sanji, your cooking skills have improved again. After swallowing the piece of meat in his hand, Luffy showed an extremely satisfied look on his face, and gave a thumbs up to Sanji, who poked his head out of the kitchen. Touching the grease stains at the corner of his mouth, Luffy glanced at his mouth and said nonchalantly. There are so many more, and Sanji can make them again, so I can't finish them all. Even if I try them first, it won't be a big deal, right? Idiot Luffy, who's talking about whether there's enough to eat? This is a celebration banquet for Bayou. The food wasn't even served, but you actually ate it secretly. Nami had an angry look on her face. As she said that, she wanted to flick up another coin to give this idiot captain a big look. Of course, it's not the new sea stone coin I got from Wano country, it's just the leftover ordinary coin. Alright. When it comes to celebrating, isn't it just for fun? Everyone can just eat to their heart's content and don't worry about so many things, seeing that these 2 living treasures were about to make a fuss again. Bayou quickly walked out, hugged Nami and started fighting. Look. Look. Bayou said it was okay. Slightly. Yahoo! I also want a delicious carbonated drink. I will definitely drink it to my heart's content today. With Bayou on his side, Luffy's confidence instantly increased. Fool, Nami gritted her teeth. She wanted to say something else, but when she felt the warmth on her back and chest, she couldn't help but feel her face heat up. The little thief cat instantly turned into a hot spring cat. Huh? It seems like someone is approaching us. Enilu suddenly spoke, looking into the distance with a surge of thunder. Originally, he was just not eating dog food, so he was so bored that he let his mind wander. Unexpectedly, he actually captured a bit of different information. The originally empty vastness on the sea, I don't know when a small ship arrived. Although the ship was not large, its speed could not be underestimated. It cut through the calm waves and approached the Sunshine Mile at a fast speed. It's him, Bayou frowned slightly. He also followed the direction pointed by Anilu and explored the past. Bayou, who has the same or even stronger sense of knowledge as him, naturally uses the heart guide to see everything. This guy, at this time, what are you doing here? There is a hint of complexity and doubt on his indifferent face. Ah. Is there really anyone? Who is it? Could it be that the Navy is catching up? Wow, oops, I'm going to die. I have a disease that kills me when I see a stranger. Let's go, Frankie, blasted with the wind. Just when Upso made up the nonsense that he was seriously ill, a familiar dog-headed boat appeared at the end of the endless sea. It approached the Sunshine Mile at a very fast speed. Grandpa, why are you here? Luffy, who was buried in his headache, suddenly raised his head. Looking at the familiar figure, he couldn't help but scream. Idiot, as a Navy, of course I want to catch you, an idiot pirate. Garp, who was wearing a dog head hat, stood up from the boat and reached out to touch the cannonball next to him. Fistbone meteorite. Xian Shao threw the cannonball in his hand. The ordinary cannonball showed a different kind of power in Garp's hands. Bang! With a speed that breaks the sound barrier, it impacts rapidly in the air, like a meteorite falling from the sky, dragging a long flame tail. It is very powerful at first glance. 60 million volts Thunder Beast. Anilu's eyes narrowed, and the golden stick flew in his hand, beating the taiko drum behind him. The raging thunder bloomed on his body, condensed into a ferocious thunder beast, and leapt towards the sky. It hit directly towards the sun, the cannonball meteorite that fell from the Wanli. Bang! After a loud noise, a gorgeous firework exploded in the sky. Amidst the smoke, bursts of thunder were also raging. Ah! Grandpa, why did you attack my boat? The uneaten half of the barbecue was still hanging on his lips, and Luffy's face was full of confusion and innocence. Snored. The stinky grandson who won't stop talking, let's try the iron fist that I love, Grandpa. Garp snorted coldly, with a gloomy look on his face. He threw aside the naval soldiers beside him and kicked hard towards the deck. Under the strong force, his whole body turned into a cannonball. He quickly smashed towards the Sunshine Miles. 200 million volts of thunder. Eniru's pupils shrank. He was good at long-range firepower coverage, so it would not be a good outcome for him to get close to such a strong person in physical skills. Not daring to be careless, he immediately turned on full power, just about to use his ultimate move to force Garp back. The next moment, a pair of warm palms stepped over the free thunder on his body and pressed down on his shoulders without any damage. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 204. Anilu looked at Bayou in confusion. Don't worry, let him come over, Bayou responded. Although Garp is indeed the strongest in physical skills, it is best for him to move closer to his strength. However, no matter what, he will not be so dizzy that he jumps directly into the base camp of his group. Let's fight. Even guys of the same era as Roger have pushed Roger into dangerous situations several times. After all, they are old and frail now and are not as good as before. By acting so recklessly, there is a high probability that they have other plans to control the power of destruction. Bayou, who was confident in his own strength, decided to let him come over. Look at him, what kind of medicine is being sold in the gourd? Besides, if you don't look at the monk's face or the Buddha's face, this old man is also Luffy's grandfather after all. Boom. It's like when the cannonball fell, Garp created a wave of air, but it did not cause any damage to the deck under his feet, which shows his high degree of control over power. Bastard boy. Grandpa is still eating when he comes, come and taste my iron fist of love. After landing on the deck, Garp did not bully him and attack the thundering arrow. Instead, he faced Luffy, who was immersed in eating. Fist of love. It hurts. It hurts. We were sitting at home, and disaster came from the sky. Luffy was still immersed in the delicious food. In the blink of an eye, his mood fell from heaven to hell. His face was full of pain and he covered his head with his hands. The rubber head that was not afraid of blows was forcibly beaten. Garp smashed 2 large bags stacked into a gourd shape. "Grandpa, what are you doing?" "I'm still eating," Luffy said with dissatisfaction while covering his head. "Of course, I'm going to wake you up and get you back on the right path. But now that I am with my companions, I am very happy." "Grandpa, don't think too much, I want to be a good thief king." Luffy laughed with his hands on his hips, but his eyes were filled with determination. "Then let me see your courage." "Good grandson," Garp said in a deep voice. He who had been laughing and joking and looking nonsensical finally turned serious, and an indescribable power rose from him. The weaker members of the Straw Hats all have a certain kind of power. Feeling out of breath? Well, it wasn't until Baiyu raised his brows slightly, released his domineering energy, and broke through this dignified iron aura that they felt much better. "Come on then." Putting down the knife and fork in his hand, Luffy also showed a serious expression. 8 gates Dungia, gate of death. Infinite power rose from the limbs and 8 bones. Luffy, who knew his grandfather thoroughly, did not dare to hold back. To avoid being hammered with a few more bags, he opened all the 8 doors. Anyway, as a rubber man, 8 doors were opened. The side effect of Mendungia is that all the meridians are cut off, which poses no threat to him at all. The rubber machine gun broke the human body's limiting valve, and Luffy exploded with unprecedented power. His body was extremely strong. The rubber arm turned into an afterimage, punching faster than the last, and punching forward quickly. It was impossible to catch it with the naked eye. The speed is so fast that it is jaw-dropping. There are probably not even 10 people in the Straw Hats who can clearly see this attack, let alone resist it. Snort. "Welcome." Garp's face was dark. It had been so long since he last saw his grandson. His little grandson, holding his head and crying, actually dared to wave his fist at him. This time, he must know what Grandpa's love is. Garp didn't dodge, but instead he rushed forward with a lunge. Although he was old, his body was not weak at all. His fists came first, directly catching up with the speed of a plane closing a gun. Bang bang bang, in the blink of an eye, in a burst of punches. As soon as their palms met, the grandfather and grandson exchanged hundreds of punches. Not only the speed, but also the strength was far beyond ordinary. A sound barrier exploded, and the sound of distorted air sounded one after another on the deck, and the fists brought about the huge wind pressure makes people unable to open their eyes. Wow, this wind is too strong, the sea surface, even the sea surface is stirred up. Woo, no, I have to go to the cabin. I have a new disease that will cause death if the wind blows. Can a pure body produce such power? The fist shadows all over the sky rose and fell, and those who saw them were dazzled. Near the Sunshine Mile, the calm sea area was also leaked by the wind pressure, causing waves to rise. But Zhang is still old after all. Hot. The scene where he punches his old master to death will only appear on TV. As the rounds between the grandfather and grandson get longer and longer, Luffy's rubber arm is hit by Garp in more and more places. Although it was not bruised immediately, the speed of the rubber machine gun slowed down uncontrollably. Good grandson. You should go back with Grandpa and me and return to the right path. You've been willful for so long, it's time for you. After gradually gaining the upper hand, Garp's dark face finally showed a smile. This kid is finally dying. We haven't seen him for a long time. If it drags on any longer, there is a real possibility that he won't be able to suppress him without the use of special tricks. On the surface, Garp is sure of victory, but secretly he can't help but breathe a sigh of relief. In the end, he is old and frail, and his endurance is not as good as before. I won't go back with you. I am the man who wants to become the Pirate King. Luffy looked at Garp seriously, his eyes full of determination. With his innocent heart, he would never look back easily after deciding on something. Grandpa, let's try this trick. Self-extreme intention gong, open, a low shout sounded from Luffy. His black hair was rendered silver by an unknown force, and even his eyes were rendered into a dazzling silver light. A unique charm rose from the thick-lined Luffy. Aloof and arrogant, powerful, ancient, as if it is not a mortal thing, it is in legend, and it is above the gods. What a powerful force! Garp's pupils shrank. The strange attitude that suddenly emerged from Luffy made Garp feel excited. The terrifying oppression, even he couldn't help but raise a strong fear. Originally, he wanted to suppress Luffy, the idea of asking him to obey was instantly thrown out of his mind. If he was careless, he would very likely lose. Or even, die. He has grown to this point in a short period of time, and even ha ha ha, he is worthy of being my grandson, Garp. Garp's face turned from gloomy to sunny, and Luffy's powerful display not only did not displease him, but actually made him feel better. Then let me come and weigh your energy. My grandson will be the Pirate King. Putting aside all the calculations in his heart, a strong fighting spirit rose in Garp's eyes. In his blood-boiling heart, there was only one thing left, fighting. With countless possibilities placed on the sea, strength will always be the absolute main theme. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 205. Garp's eyes narrowed, and a long-lost heroic look appeared on his dull face. The dark-armed domineering energy quietly emerged and wrapped around his proud iron fist. It was as if he was treating Luffy as an equal, even a formidable enemy. In a daze, Garp felt as if he had returned to the time when he was chasing Roger on the sea. The blood is burning. Boom. Ling Ran's aura burst out from Garp. The Navy hero Garp, who overpowered the sea, single-handedly pursued Roger and forced him into desperate situations many times, finally appeared on the clear blue sea again. Boundless domineering, forcefully separated from consciousness and body, Luffy with the aura of a god, competes with each other, and is evenly matched. Even if it is, Luffy cannot fully control the ultimate intention Kung Fu, and it is still in its infancy. That's scary enough. This is the control skill of God, the gesture of stepping into the realm of God. The sky, the clouds in the sky is split. With the momentum of their confrontation, the two people were furious. Suddenly, a hole was pierced in the sky. Looking from a distance, it looks like the sky has split open. Woohoo, I really have to leave. Frankie, take me in quickly, I really have a disease that will kill me if I am hit by the momentum. I didn't expect Luffy to be so powerful, but my swordsmanship will definitely not be weaker than yours. Qinghai people are so strong. Can the captain win? This old man looks so scary. Just as the much-anticipated duel was going on, a petite figure suddenly jumped out. Melee. Are you coming to watch the fun too? Seeing the familiar villain, Chopper even took the initiative to say hello. Watching the fun? If you continue reading, you will have to fall into the water and drink sea water. Little lowly Melee said with an angry expression on her waist. Fall into the water and drink sea water, Chopper was a little confused. Could it be that the Navy is coming? Luffy's grandfather is just here to hold us back. Navy. The Navy is coming. Frankie, hurry up, activate the wind and break through. Enel, please use your thunder power. I have a disease that will kill me when I see the Navy. Let's go. Wrong. In my mind, I didn't sense any sign of the approach of a large-scale ship. Eniro shook his head and ignored Usopp, who was making up random medical history and being a crybaby. Through the combination of radio waves and the ability of the heart network, Enel was once able to monitor the entire Sky Island, let alone now that he is stronger. The nearby sea areas are all under his control. Not even Hin can escape his control, not to mention the huge naval fleet. No, no navy, Upso's tears were stuck in his eyes. What an idiot. Who said there is a navy? I mean they fight? You don't think that the Sunshine Wanli can withstand the aftermath of the battle between the two of them, do you? Meili couldn't help but cover her forehead. She almost cried because of these guys. What? The aftermath. Meili woke up the dreamer with a word, and everyone in the Straw Hats came back to their senses. As Luffy and his grandson became more and more involved in the fight, the aftermath escaped uncontrollably. Before, there were only 8 gates of armor. Activating it, Luffy could still barely control his power accurately, and Garp, who had the upper hand, had enough power to neutralize the remaining power. But these two people, one activated the incompletely mastered Freedom Ultimate Intention Gong, and the other rekindled the passion and threw it away together. Behind his head, he used his strongest strength. Even if he tried his best, he would not care about the aftermath of the fight. The official fist fight hadn't started yet. It was just a confrontation with the accumulated momentum, and the planks on the Sunshine Miles were removed. It flew a lot. This ship is indeed the capital of the Seven Waters. It was carefully built by the strongest shipbuilder and can withstand even cannon bombardment. However, we must also consider who we are fighting against. The new emperor at sea, and the navy the strongest lieutenant general, and it is also a duel of physical skills. Even if it is to destroy an island, or even change the weather of a place, it is a routine operation, let alone a mere ship. If it really breaks out and fights with all its strength, Sunshine the Wanli Hao will definitely have the only fate, Meili said. No. We can't fight. If we continue to fight, the ship will be destroyed. You idiot Luffy, stop it, it's going to cost a lot of money to buy another ship. Oops, they don't seem to be responding at all. What to do? Under the hurried shouting of the Straw Hat friends, neither Luffy nor Garp responded at all. On the contrary, the already powerful aura on their bodies became more and more like an abyss and an ocean as time went by. It was as if both of them were immersed in their thoughts and fell into a deeper level of energy accumulation. Merely shouting verbally will have no effect on them. Nami wanted to force her way over to wake Luffy up. Buying a new boat was a lot of money. However, the heavy coercion emanating from the two of them made it difficult for her to move forward. Unless the coin made of Sea Tower stone is used at full power to use the electromagnetic gun to break the aura they created. Otherwise, with her average domineering cultivation, she would never be able to get close to him. Oops, can we just let the captain fight? It is true that a ship can be rebuilt after it is destroyed, but, I can't swim. Me, I can swim, but I have a disease that will kill me if I touch the sea water. It's better to find a way to make the captain and others stop. Boom. After a short period of energy accumulation, the aura brewed by the two became increasingly intense. The cold wind pressure was so strong that people couldn't even lift their heads. The strong fence of the Wanli Sunshine was torn apart by the air pressure, and the sails on the mast were also punched out by the bulging air. The fist fight is about to begin. Oh no. Oh no. The ship is sinking. What should I do? I can't swim. In this case, even knowing how to swim is useless. This is the sea. I ate a devil fruit and will lose my mobility if I touch the sea water. Jinbei, it's up to you. The hurried Straw Hats finally stopped waiting for the outcome of Luffy's battle. They racked their brains and thought of a way to get off the bus safely. As for the Wanli Sunshine, they can only feel sorry for Meili for a while and return to the Seven Waters. They all went to rebuild. What's the use of relying on me? My water escape is impossible. Just lift so many people together. As for Zoro, he is not a devil fruit user. Jinbei looked numb. No matter how powerful his water escape ability is, he is still the owner of the devil fruit. Relying on water escape to bring everyone away safely is not realistic. It's true that I'm not, but I don't know how to swim. Do you want me to use my sword to cut open the sea? It's better to go to Meili and ask for a reliable boat. Zolong's voice rang in everyone's ears. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 206. Yes. Boat. If we have a ship as a carrier and Jinping's water escape, we will definitely be able to leave safely. Then we can just wait for the captain to finish the fight. Everyone hit it off immediately and were about to rush to find the small boat on board. Etc. A figure suddenly stepped forward. Vice Captain? Do you have any idea? After seeing the shape of the figure clearly, Zoro seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes suddenly lit up. He almost forgot about Baiyu and thought he was in a coma. Since Baiyu has taken action, then things will definitely be fine. Should be no problem. Baiyu touched his non-existent beard and said with some hesitation. Very good. Jinbei, who was in the numb claws, finally felt relieved. He no longer had to be chased. With water escape, he forcibly sent his friends to the nearest island. For such a large project, although his strength increased dramatically, to be honest, Jinbei still felt very guilty. He didn't have time to talk to his friends more. Seeing that Luffy and Garp's momentum reached its peak, Baiyu quickly lucked out. The figure caught up. S.A. Uebu. Shave. With the help of the 6th Marine style, 2 moves are superimposed, and Baiyu slides an invisible track in the air. Finally, they arrived in the middle before the 2 fist bumped. The ultimate freedom of mind. Baiyu didn't dare to be too big, and immediately started the same mode as Luffy. His hair, which had just turned into black silk, instantly turned silver again, and his pupils were also dyed a dazzling silvery white. He was above the gods. The aura rose up in him, no less than that of Luffy, who was at the peak of his strength. Shura. Endless power emerged from his body, and his unique skills bloomed with a new brilliance after taming the power of destruction. He turned his hands into palms and struck out boldly, facing Garp with one hand and Luffy with the other. Todoroki. Everyone made a loud noise in their minds. But in fact, this attack, which was like a great collision between heaven and earth, strangely did not make any sound on the Wanli Sunshine. Even the airwaves did not stir up much, only a breeze blew by, lifting the hair on everyone's forehead, bringing with it the unique salty smell of the sea breeze. Bang, just when everyone was stunned. A few sea miles away, the originally calm sea surface suddenly burst out with a roar. The sound of cracking the ground. It was like someone detonating a large-yield nuclear bomb under the sea. The terrifying energy reaction directly set off terrifying waves hundreds of meters high on the calm plain. The waves crashed on the shore, smashed on the sea, shattered into waves. But, terrible. Everyone in the Straw Hats was fine, but the Navy soldiers on the dog-headed ship all hugged their heads and cried in fear. This huge wave came down less than 10 meters away from them. The huge waves turned their deck into a beach, and they were just a blink away from being killed in the sea. Ah! Baiyu, why are you interfering in my duel? Luffy was really unhappy that the battle was interrupted. If I don't take action, the Sunshine Mile will be destroyed by the fight between you two. Baiyu said angrily. If it weren't for the slow shipbuilding speed of the Seven Waters City, and it would not be a good idea to ask Mei Li to change the carrier. Bai Yu is too lazy to care about this nonsense. Neither of these two men is easy to deal with. Wan Li Sunshine? Yes, Melly. Is she okay? Luffy, who was unhappy at first, instantly became intimidated and couldn't even speak. I'm here. The little loli muttered, her face full of dissatisfaction. Hey, it's okay. However, Bai Yu, your body is getting stronger again. Luffy scratched his head in embarrassment, and in a blink of an eye he saw Bai Yu, who was unharmed, his face full of admiration. He is indeed my deputy captain. Awesome. He couldn't help but give a thumbs up on his hand. There was no hint of dissatisfaction in Bai Yu's silly smile because he had interrupted his attack. Obviously, this displeasure had been thrown away by the arrogant Luffy. It's gone beyond the clouds. Grandpa, do you think so? As he said this, he didn't forget to pull up Garp. He forgot that the two of them were fighting for life and death just now. Yes, Garp agreed absent-mindedly. Although it is equally nonsensical, Garp, who has been on the battlefield for a long time and has rich experience, is obviously much more knowledgeable than Luffy. How can he take his and Luffy's attacks at the same time so easily? And he also wiped out the aftermath of the battle on the deck and forcibly moved it to the sea several kilometers away to prevent the ship beneath him from being affected. This guy's strength is simply amazing. Even if he regains his youth and returns to his peak, not necessarily. Looking at Bai Yu's body that seemed to be unscathed and his expression unchanging. Under Garp's inconspicuous dog-head hat, the vicissitudes of his eyes concealed a deep fear of him. He looked away calmly, deliberately facing Luffy with a straight face. Humph. Although there is no need to sympathize with the villain, you are still my grandson after all. If you don't want to go back with me, just leave Wano country as soon as possible. This is not a safe place. Although the Navy is afraid of you. Garp lowered his eyes, and the vicissitudes of life in his eyes were intertwined, as if heaven and man were at war. But world government is not that simple. However, Garp finally said the last words in his heart. I am the man who wants to become the Pirate King. Luffy doesn't understand Garp's struggles. He is so nervous that he still shouts his catchphrase. Bastard grandson, did you listen to me carefully? Garp's old face twitched, and a tic-tac-toe appeared on his head. Grandpa, don't worry, I will definitely succeed. Who told you that it would be unsuccessful? I want you to leave the country of Wano. Garp's veins jumped with anger. If he hadn't clearly noticed during the confrontation of momentum just now, his grandson's strength would not be much inferior to his own. Garp would have struck him with the iron fist of love. Now, it's hard to fight, and it doesn't make sense. For the first time in his life, Garp feels powerless to write. The two of them just talked about it for a long time, and Garp finally returned without success. I was tired and chose to give up. My stupid grandson doesn't make sense. Boy, by you over there, you should know what I mean. Things this time are not as simple as you think. The world government can tolerate the old Four Emperors' forces, but it does not mean that they can accept a pirate emperor who dares to take action against the celestial dragons and has the base to resist them. Don't say it thoroughly, just stop it. Garp, who has matured into a mature man, stopped talking after just a few words. He looked at Bai Yu with a straight face. He believed that the Straw Hats could develop to this level. Bai Yu is definitely not a guy with only muscles and no brains. You said the captain is Luffy? Others don't know, but he doesn't know? His grandson may be able to help in a fight. Making plans. That brain is pure pulp, it's a mess. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 207. I know. Bai Yu nodded, with a clear look on his face. Bai Yu has always been very clear about the plans of the world government and the Navy. he just wants to use them as knives to wipe out the old four emperors' forces at sea. But it's not that easy to play chess and sit on the mountain and watch tigers fight. It's not easy to catch a knife, and it will hurt your hands. Bai Yu's expression did not change, and he sneered in his heart, full of disdain. If he hadn't been completely sure before, just can he rely on the old system of the country of Wano, and then take a desperate move to take a risk? But now, does he really think that the power of destruction he has newly acquired is just for looks? Humph, that's good if you know, Garp snorted arrogantly. Garp, who didn't know Bai Yu's inner thoughts, thought he had listened to his persuasion. In this case, I will leave first. Stupid grandson, please save your own life. If you don't understand, just ask the brat next to you. After that, Garp, who looked arrogant, exerted force with his feet and kicked hard towards the sky. His whole body was shot out like a cannonball, and he was launched in the direction of the dog-headed ship in the distance without looking back, causing a wave of sound. Do not worry. I am the man who will become the Pirate King. Luffy compared his hands to a trumpet and shouted to Garp. Watching Garp disappear into the distance, Bai Yu gradually relaxed. The power of death is still there, not to mention the old age. He is worthy of being called a naval hero, the lifelong enemy of Roger the Pirate King. What a terrifying guy. Bai Yu lowered his face, hiding the fear in his eyes. He shook his right hand without leaving any trace. The arm that seemed to be unscathed was already riddled with holes from the impact of the powerful force field. Not to mention that I couldn't exert any strength at all, but it was still a bit numb and I couldn't exert any strength. If he doesn't show martial ethics and throws a punch, his secret will definitely be exposed. Fortunately, Chopper's control over Chopper's immortal technique was high enough that he could barely maintain his apparent strength. Even so, considering Garp's identity, Bai Yu did not use the newly acquired destructive power, fearing that he would not be able to hold back. But he could almost break the Shura body that he had gathered so much power. Garp is really strong enough. None of these guys who call themselves the remnants of the old era are easy. Even Roger had no choice but to surrender and sacrifice his life to usher in the Age of Discovery. I'm afraid the world government is really what Garp said, it's not simple. Why? By the way, what should we do now? Nami touched her head, looking a little confused. Do we really want to take over Wano as originally planned? Robin's expectant eyes were mixed with a vague fear. Known as the child of the devil, although she was always thinking about revenge against the world government, when she really faced this day, she couldn't help but think I saw the horrific scene that day. For a moment, I had mixed feelings, complicated. Why? I think it's better to forget it. I recently got a disease that will kill me if I go to the island. I really can't go. Usopp's face drooped, full of tears, and as expected, he started lying. We finally solved Big Mom, Kaido, and the Navy ambushing behind us. Are we just going to run away in despair? Sanji crawled out of the kitchen, took a long drag on his cigarette, and blew out a smoke ring with an unhappy look on his face. That's the world government. They have ruled the world for so many years. Who knows how powerful they are, and Grandpa Luffy specially came to inform us. Frankie had some hesitation on his face. Bai Yu looked at Luffy, who was immersed in the food as if nothing was wrong, glanced at Luffy and said, "Do you think our captain will change our original plan because of these things? This guy probably cares more about the barbecue in front of him than this." Zoran shook his head helplessly. If you get on a ship with a rough and tumble mind, you will have to endure his nonsensical character. Therefore, we should ignore the world government and act according to the original plan. Compared to the question of whether to go or not, I am more interested in this knife. At least half of the Navy's efforts have been spent on him. Bai Yu untied the Jin Kunluo from his waist, held it in his hand and looked at it carefully. The look in his eyes is complicated, and his face is full of contemplation. Ho ho ho. I am the man who wants to become the pirate king. Let us march towards Wano country again. Sunshine Miles, go. I don't know if he was stimulated by those words. Luffy, who was buried in his head, suddenly raised his head. He didn't even wipe the oil stains from the corners of his mouth, and started shouting with excitement. Yahoo! Rush to Wano country. For the countless Baileys, it's to save the people of Wano. Go. After the two captains unified their direction, the wavering members of the Straw Hats also had a backbone. Even if Luffy was unreliable, you would never follow suit. I'm sure the vice captains have decided to go. Then it's absolutely no problem. Enel, please input the power into this quickly. We should hurry up and set sail. Frankie poked Enel, who was folding his hands and looking like he was watching a show, pointed at the metal ball next to the steering wheel, and urged quickly. We have been on the ship for so long, and we have already had a good relationship. Of course, there is no need to talk anymore. As polite as before. Let's take another look at the calm sea. After arriving in Wano country, it may not be so easy. Frankie said proudly. Hello. It's about to start. I'm tired of injecting electricity all the time. The thunder surged, and Enelu looked like an electric mouse, and said with an unhappy face. Well done. Activate emergency flight mode. Frankie pressed a button with a smile on his face, and a burst of mechanical gear sounds sounded on the ship. The mast on the Wanli Sunshine was quickly folded and retracted automatically, and two branches were also extended on both sides of the solid hull. Wing. The wind is coming to blast. Boom, the electricity stored in an arrow turned into endless kinetic energy and spurted out on the hull of the ship. Under the powerful propulsion, the Sunshine Miles sailed on the vast sea at a speed that was unparalleled. Speeding up. It brought up a long tail of breaking waves, splashing water all over the ground. Wow, cool. At this time, it's time to sing a sea concerto. Brook excitedly waved his right fist, picked up his violin, and started playing with an intoxicated expression on the empty sea surface, facing the roaring sea breeze. It's fast. But if you use the running mode to rush on the road, isn't the sea breeze too strong? Holding her hair that was about to be blown away, Nami frowned. Simple. Activate protective mode. The translucent light curtain slowly rose from the ship, firmly blocking the wind and waves outside. Marvelous. I can enjoy delicious food again. After cheering, Luffy dived into the food again, and Bayou looked at it with his forehead raised. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 208. Kaido of the Beasts raided the Navy and rescued Big Mom safely. The captain of the Big Mom pirates, Charlotte Lingling, was killed by Shiro Yu, the deputy leader of the Straw Hat Pirates. Kaido, the captain of the Beast Pirates, was defeated by Shiro Yu, the deputy leader of the Straw Hat Pirates. Kaido, the captain of the Beast Pirates, was arrested by the Navy. The Beast Pirates' Fire Calamity Yin was arrested by the Navy. Quinn, the Beast Pirates' Plague, was arrested by the Navy. When the Straw Hats landed in Wano country, they learned this shocking news on Newsbird. Ignoring the frightened and awed gazes of the people present, I walked forward on my own. It seems that the Navy did not fight us and left in order to capture Kaido. Robin touched his chin and said thoughtfully. They probably thought that we were difficult to deal with, so they went to take down the seriously injured Kaido first, so as not to end up in vain and not have to explain to the world government. Jinbei, who once served in the King's Shishibukai, con to some extent naval thinking. No matter what, we should seize the time and formulate the basic charter of Wano before the Navy and the world government are free. Got it, Vice Captain. Under the leadership of Bayou, everyone in the Straw Hats did not dare to chat anymore. After taking care of the Wanli Sunshine, they all hurried forward. Tap tap tap. Without taking 2 steps, they rushed directly to meet the people who heard the news. Of light, moon, sun and Bayou, it's great that you're okay. As soon as they met, the newly appointed female general of Wano country cried and threw herself into Bayou's arms. Cough, I'm fine. Do not worry, Bayou coughed dryly. Under the angry gazes of the 3 women, Bayou had no choice but to stiffen and push Guanjiaohiri out. Thank you for avenging me. Yueguang Rai, he looked at Bayou with tears in his eyes, his pitiful look made Bayou's heart melt. Thank you, Your Excellency, for defeating Kaido and liberating the nation for us. Kinemon knelt down on one knee with a wink. Thank you, Your Excellency, for defeating Kaido and liberating the nation for us. Others also quickly followed him, kneeling on one knee and shouting loudly. Their faces were full of gratitude, but their eyes were full of awe. They thought that the Straw Hats, plus their own group, would be able to survive. He can only compete with Kaido. Everyone present is holding the thought of death, and many people are even preparing to let the Straw Hats consume a wave first, and then take action on their own. To put it bluntly, they all had very little confidence in jointly conquering Kaido. They just had no choice but to make a desperate move. Unexpectedly, the Straw Hats were so strong. While defeating the Beast Pirates, they were also able to defeat the Navy behind the scenes. They were also forced to retreat. Especially their vice-captain, who single-handedly fought against Big Mom and Kaido, killing and injuring one of them. As a result, in just a few days, he recovered like a normal person. This kind of strength is simply terrifying. Even if Lord Kojiki Oden is resurrected, I'm afraid he will be no match for him. Gilug. Thinking of this, the 9 red scabbard heroes couldn't help but swallow their saliva, and the look of awe on their faces became even stronger. Okay, don't thank me anymore. Bayou waved his hand. He has never been interested in such superficial articles. Although Kaido was lucky enough to escape with his life, he fell into the hands of the Navy and would definitely not end well. Besides, the Beast Pirates were all wiped out. Without Kaido's support, the civil strife in Wano country would be easily resolved. Have you ever thought about the future direction of Wano country? Bayou turned his head and said to Guanjiaohiri. And, the country of Wano, the future. Mitsuki Hiri shed tears of gratitude while speaking intermittently. However, before she could finish her words, Kinemon came to talk to her first. Thank you for your concern, Lord Bayou. The civil strife is still being quelled. We are also working hard to discuss the future of Wano country with our Lord. After all, it has been stolen by the Hightown family for so long, so many of the details need to be considered carefully and slowly. It is so big a country cannot afford to be in a hurry. Kinemon resorted to the tactic of procrastinating in a slick manner, avoiding the main point and simply giving a confused answer. He rushed to speak before Kojiki Hiri because he was afraid that the newly appointed lord would reveal everything about his past. It is true that Bayou is powerful, and it is also true that he can save the country of Wano from danger. But this does not mean that Kinemon is willing to tell the truth about Wano country so easily, and even make the country a vassal and subordinate. Consider it slowly, Bayou chuckled, his tone full of disdain. Oops. Could it be that he really wanted to get involved in Wano's internal affairs? Kinemon's heart sank, and a strong sense of badness rose from the bottom of his heart, as if he had fallen into an ice cave. Bayou's unabashed tone made him extremely uneasy. Could it be that it was so difficult to drive away Kaido? Wano country is about to welcome another Shiroya with even more terrifying strength. Thinking of Shiroya's mythical achievements, Kinemon became desperate and could not think of any resistance at all. If you need me, Mr. Bayou, I am willing to go against my old master's last wish and dedicate my hands of the country of Wano to you. I only ask that you give my lord a way to survive." Kinemon knelt on the ground with his whole body prostrate, his tone mixed with sadness. While retreating to advance, he also faintly started to stir up dissension. "What an old fox," Baiyu cursed secretly. He wanted to take Wano country into his pocket and use it as the basis for the Straw Hats' management. But it was definitely not in this way, which was like force. Even if he didn't take into account Hiri Kojiki's thoughts, Baiyu still has to consider the public sentiment of the subjects here. He doesn't want to see the people in his territory unite to rebel against him every now and then, recalling the previous rule. He is too lazy to pay attention to Kinemon, who is kneeling in front of him, howling like a ghost. "Baiyu," he sneered and said, "dedicate the country of Wano to me? A day off and a way to survive? I think you have asked the wrong person." What? Kinemon raised his head, his tearful face was full of confusion. Baiyu continued to speak slowly, "You don't think that after Kaido is dealt with, Wano country will be able to sit back and relax, right?" "Lord Baiyu, what do you mean?" Kinemon was a little frightened when he heard this, and he couldn't even speak clearly. "Kaido has been dealt with, but the Navy's warships haven't been evacuated yet, right? You don't think the world government would let go of such a good opportunity to intervene in your internal affairs, do you? Previously, it was because of the complex terrain and the powerful armament under Kaido's guard that it was difficult to crack the hard bones, but now the Navy is very close to here. Or do you think the world government will be indifferent to the seafloor minerals hidden underground? I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats." Author, Super Red. Chapter 209. This. Baiyu's sharp questioning lifted the fig leaf that Kinwyman had used to hide his ears, leaving him speechless. World government. The power that has suppressed the world for hundreds of years and ruled everything, just hearing it makes people breathless. Facing this terrifying behemoth, all the little juju hidden in his heart was crushed to pieces. Could it be that the country of Wano is really going to end? Just out of the wolf's den, he entered the tiger's mouth again, and it was still a wild giant tiger that was difficult to resist. Kinemon's eyes lost their sparkle, and like a salted fish whose ideals were shattered, he collapsed on the ground in despair. "I also ask Mr. Baiyu to save the country of Wano, even if it is for the sake of my lord." Kikinashima knelt down on one knee with a sincere look on his face and made a gesture of loyalty. Compared to the extremely slippery Kinemon, this beautiful woman understood the meaning of Shiroyu's words faster. "White feather." Kojiki Yamato also looked over with a pleading expression. The beauty shed tears and wet the skirt of her clothes. She looked like she was about to cry, and it was really hard to bear to refuse. Of course Baiyu is no exception, not to mention this is his original purpose. "Don't worry, as long as you stabilize the internal affairs of the country and prevent the world government from taking advantage of it, I will help you solve the problem of forceful attack." Baiyu patted Kojiki Yamato on the shoulder, his tone full of firmness. It gave people a feeling of super invincibility and reliability. "Don't worry. I will never let the beautiful lady get hurt. It is my unshirkable responsibility to protect this beautiful young lady." Sanji didn't know where to bring out a plate of luminous food. Following Baiyu's words, he patted his chest and promised. "Sexy chef. With your little strength, you are said to protect others. It would be great if you can protect yourself from the attacks of the world government. Zoran has long been dissatisfied with this chef who is full of beauties. Of course he will not let go of the opportunity to ridicule him. Stinky green algae head. Who says I can't do it anymore? My kicking skills are also super strong, okay? And if you can, don't eat the glowing dishes I made." When the beautiful young lady was embarrassed, Sanji became so angry that if he hadn't been unable to beat him, he would have kicked her away. "Cut. If you don't want to eat, Don't eat. Who wants to eat what you, a pervert chef, cook? Zoro curled his lips with disdain on his face. With the newly acquired second-generation Ghost Tetsu, Zoro has already swollen. Ah! I'll fight you. Bastard green algae head. Sanji was so angry at his attitude that he even forgot about the difference in strength and insisted on running up to deliver food. You two, stop here. Nami shouted angrily with her hands on her hips. Bang bang bang. As the two hot buns came out of the oven, the two living treasures finally became quiet. They all covered their heads and squatted in the corner without tears. Can these unreliable guys really resist the Navy and the world government? Juice Heshin looked doubtful about life, always feeling that his previous decisions were too hasty. Leave the future of Wano country to these people. Can Wano country really have a future? Kaido's lair, Ghost Island. Originally run like an iron barrel by Kaido, it was ruled by the three disasters and had a large number of members under its jurisdiction. Already completely occupied by the Navy, it had been transformed into their shape from the inside out. More than 100 giant ships, comparable to double copies of the Demon Slayer token, were anchored outside the island unscathed. Tens of thousands of Marines are stationed here, with serious and disciplined expressions, obviously preparing for a huge war. A temporary command platform has been built on the cleared part of the island. CP agencies wearing masks and naval officers wearing justice walk through it. It seems like another joint operation under the leadership of the world government. Report. Lieutenant General Garp returned with his soldiers, and there was no trace of the Straw Hat crew on board. A soldier knocked on the door and came in, speaking quickly. The Straw Hats are really monsters. Even Hero Garp can only return in vain. Kizaru raised his eyelids, and then he closed his eyes and started fishing again. He didn't have any passion for fighting before. Anyway, the dirty water on his body had been poured into black charcoal by that brat Bayou, and he couldn't even wash it off. It's unclear, it just gets darker and darker. Kizaru simply gave up the idea of struggling, and gave up on himself and started making salted fish. Can't help. Could it be that because the captain of the Straw Hats was his grandson, he couldn't do anything and deliberately let them leave? The CP chief wearing a black and white mask is not so polite when he speaks. The yin and yang tone is very suitable for his neither yin nor yang look. Don't make random assumptions. I know Mr. Karp's character and he would never do such a thing. A.O. Pheasant's unique voice came out from the phone bug, giving support to Garp. Although in order to prevent pirates from taking advantage of the situation, he could only sit at the Navy headquarters to take precautions. But a war of this scale may even be possible. How could Aokiji not know anything about the meeting to determine the future pattern of the sea? It is perfectly normal to conduct remote control and understanding through phone bugs. Oh, what is he like? You're not Garp. How do you know he won't? He bent the law for personal gain because of his grandson and deliberately let them leave easily. The CP chief looked disdainful. Others were afraid of Aokiji, but he was not. As the chief of CP0, he was directly under the orders of the Celestial Dragons. He didn't even care about the officials of the world government. How could he let Aokiji, the naval marshal, go? In eyes. Mr. Garp is a hero of the Navy. Even if he faces Luffy, I believe he will never give in. Moreover, Mr. Karp's dispatch this time was also signed and approved by me. Are you questioning the credibility of our Navy? Qingji's voice from the phone bug is still neither salty nor light. As for what he is thinking in his heart, it is unknown. You. Green Pheasant. The CPO director was so angry that he was speechless. If he didn't have a useful place in the Navy later, and he didn't completely break up now, he would have been angry if he uttered arrogance. However, the CP agency simply cannot mobilize so many strong men, so it must rely on the power of the Navy and can only endure it for a while. Qing Pheasant, wait. The CP chief gritted his teeth, veins bulging on his head, and said harsh words full of annoyance. If you are dissatisfied with me, you can report it to the world government at any time to see if they want to remove me from my position as Marshal of the Navy. The nonchalant voice of Aokiji came from the phone. The original three generals, Akainu and Liang, and Kizaru are the only ones left. The dirty water on his body has not been washed away, and he is extremely lazy. Personality. No matter how you look at it, you don't want to take up the position of Marshal. Aokiji has nothing to fear. The world government has no choice for the position of Navy Marshal. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 210. Asshole. The CP chief was choked. He was so angry that one Buddha came out of his body and two Buddhas ascended to heaven. He was directly affiliated with the celestial dragons, and even the world government officials could ignore him. He didn't expect that not long after he took office, he was actually attacked by himself. He was frustrated in front of the Navy, who was regarded as a cooperative subordinate. He was so angry that his heart trembled. His face turned the color of pig liver. Snort. He snorted coldly, and he was so angry that he just wanted to smash the conference table to pieces to vent his anger. But before Fujitora's gravity suppressed him, a rough magnetic voice came instead. Who is this? He is so reckless and dares to be so arrogant in the Navy conference room. Oh, it turns out to be the president of CP0. I said, why don't you wear the white mask of the CP organization? I was too lazy to make any remarks, and followed a lieutenant general wearing a dog-headed hat into the conference room. It's you. The head of the CP agency, who was already angry and had been ridiculed by House Hung, turned his gun around and said angrily. I asked who it was, and it turned out to be Hero Garp. Didn't you go to arrest your straw hats? Why did I come back empty-handed? There must be some technical content in releasing the water. Ching Pheasant is the Marshal of the Navy. If he is provoked, he will give up his job, and he will not get any good results. Ching Pheasant cannot be overly stimulated. You, Garp, are just a lieutenant general, but you can't afford to offend him. Release water. Cap pulled over a chair and sat down casually. Isn't it? Even if you want to mess with your grandson, you don't need to be so arrogant. Just come back with all your tail intact. Not even a single naval soldier was injured. After being blatantly ignored by Garp, the CP chief became even more arrogant. Laugh, Garp sneered, too lazy to deal with such a villain. Could it be that I made a mistake? I said that I went to intercept the Straw Hats, but they were not captured and they were not even injured. I don't think you just circled the surrounding sea area and came back to report. The CP chief's words became even more sinister. Even Fujitora, who was listening in, couldn't stand it. Although he can't really see it. Captain stood up from his chair. His face was serious and he didn't say a word. He was too lazy to tangle with such a villain, so he just punched out with his right hand. The dark-armed color is wrapped around the iron fist, and the fierce wind of the fist brings powerful wind pressure. Bang! The sound that broke the sound barrier sounded in the conference room. In the midst of lightning and flint, Garp's dark iron fist was less than 10 centimeters away from the face of Chief CP. For a physical master of his level, this distance is equivalent to nothing. Before the CP chief could react, the domineering punch forcefully disintegrated the mask on his face into powder. Hwalala, drifting with the wind and dissipated in the air. You, what on earth do you want to do? Do you want to imitate your son or grandson and rebel together? Betray the Navy and resist the rule of the world government. The casserole's fist is right in front of you, and even those who are close can clearly see the fingerprints on it. The CP chief, who was extremely arrogant just now, is now so frightened that his heart is trembling. He doesn't dare to irritate him with any harsh words, and only dares to be cruel. The threat of stubble was rising. He was afraid that Garp would lose his mind and send him to his death with a punch. Judging from the speed he just showed, he was sure that he would be able to block more than 2 people at such a close distance. Anyway, he was not confident at all. No. Laugh. I just want you to see how injured I am. Didn't you say I was unscathed? Then open your eyes wide and show me. Garp sneered and slowly lifted up the cuffs on his arms. On his bronze arms, several scars blasted by the wind of fists lingered for a long time, as if there was a strange force preventing them from healing. Veins, blood vessels, it's even more outrageous and exposed. It looks like it was used forcefully, and it appeared as if it was overloaded with the power that the body can bear. This. Kizaru's pupils shrank. Xianya couldn't pretend anymore. This is the scar caused by the fist fight between me and the Straw Hats, Vice Captain Baiyu. After waking up from a coma, his strength was not affected, but actually became stronger. Even if I try my best, I may not be able to take him down, not to mention that there are a bunch of crew members around him who cannot be underestimated. In order to take into account the safety of the soldiers around him. So after a brief fight and confirming our strength, I took the opportunity to retreat, and, after fighting with me, he didn't seem to have any signs of injury, at least on the surface. Garp's deep voice sounded in the conference room. This guy is getting stronger again. Fujitoro was a little doubtful whether his determination at that time was correct. Baiyu's growth rate was too fast, far beyond his expected range. Even Hero Garp, that guy is such a monster. Maybe, he said. Kizaru's eyes were half drooped, his expression dark, and he didn't know what he was thinking about. Could it be that Fujitora insisted on giving up and conservatively chose to capture Kaido first because he was afraid of this guy? The tall man with a handsome face, wearing a green shirt, had a thoughtful look on his face. For a moment, a pin drop could be heard in the conference room. Of course, what the generals are thinking in their minds is hard to tell. Got it? Even the CEO of CP, who has always been yin and yang, was dumbfounded. Snort. Since the other party is so powerful, how did you get away so easily? Who would believe you if you say that you have nothing to do with the Straw Hats in private? The CP chief, who recovered from the shock, snorted coldly and continued to pester him. Enough. The top priority now is the order of the world government. If you delay the business, even if you are directly subordinate to the Tianlong people, you will not be able to escape the relationship. Qingji's cold voice came from the phone bug, forcibly bringing this matter to an end. Snort. Then just wait. It's not that easy. The CP chief made such a fuss, and after saying a few words, he turned around and left. Tisk, the CP organization is indeed getting worse and worse, almost as good as their master. After Garp smashed his mouth, he put on his dog head hat. He closed his eyes and sat on the chair to rest. Anyway, he is a wounded person now, so he should enjoy himself. Oh no, he is recovering from his injuries. Of course it's normal for a new guy to be frizzy. Fujitoro looked like he was used to it. Don't worry about them. Since the world government has released them and attached so much importance to them, they will definitely be equipped with that thing. If we really want to fight, even our navy may not be able to. We should concentrate on dealing with the Straw Hats and try to hold them back as much as possible. However, the speed at which Baiyu gets stronger is really scary. What a monster! Qingji's voice from the phone bug was full of fear for Baiyu. I didn't expect that the little guy who was driven away by him would grow to this point so quickly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 211. Countless beautiful flowers bloom in the wind in the Flower City, stretching their beautiful bodies wantonly. The fragrance comes to the nostrils, making people feel swaying and enjoying the spring scenery. But no one present had the time to appreciate this beautiful scenery. They all looked solemnly and looked at the open door with a worried expression, as if they were waiting for some important visitor. Have the straw hats not arrived yet? Kinnaman's anxious face was almost sweating, replying to your lord, I haven't received the whereabouts of the straw hat pirates yet. They only sent it? Let us be calm and wait for the news. It is said that it will be here soon. A passerby standing on one side knelt down and saluted. Afterwards, he said respectfully, we'll be there soon, we'll be there soon. How long has it been? The Navy ships are already watching the ghost island, and they haven't even seen them yet. Kinnaman was not comforted by the guard's words at all, but instead he became even more anxious and angry. After losing the interception of the external waterfall, the Navy entered the inland sea. Without natural defenses, Wano can be said to be a tiger without teeth. Weak ones are okay. Basically, there is no capital that can compete with the Navy, let alone the world government standing behind them. If there is a real fight, it will be to attack the stone with an egg. Seeing that the hungry wolf has arrived at the door of the house, it's strange that Kinnaman doesn't panic. Could they be afraid of the Navy and run away first? Kinnaman, who was trying to save others by himself, had a bad feeling in his heart. Probably not. Master Bayou has already agreed. Besides, if they are afraid of the Navy, they won't have to land again. The graceful Kikuka-chan, who was so beautiful that even women couldn't help but be jealous, stood up. Maybe it's for the sea tower stone. Isn't there a person named Nami in the Straw Hats who asked for 10 million sea tower stone coins? I said I shouldn't give it to her so easily. Even if they want to give it, it will have to wait until the Navy is expelled. They must have gotten something now, so they took the opportunity to run away. Otherwise, why would there be no one in this critical moment? Kinnaman didn't take it seriously, his face was still ugly. He completely forgot that these Kailuishi coins were from Hirikojiki. In order to thank the Straw Hats for expelling the black carbon Orokai, he offered to give Nami a thank you gift. Secretly changing the concept, taking advantage of the topic and doing it is called a master. This, Kikonashi was choked by his words. That's enough, Lord Bayou is definitely not such a person. Kojiki Hiwa's low voice sounded from the seat at the top. My lord, you know people but don't know their hearts. You have only known him for a short time. What if you were deceived by him? He is the fifth pirate emperor who rose from the sea. Kinnaman looked distressed, as if it is the same as a loyal minister giving advice to a foolish king. From the bottom of my heart, I didn't take Mitsuki Hiri into consideration at all. It was true that he was loyal to the Kojiki family, but that didn't mean that he was willing to be a woman's retainer, especially if the woman was Anwaran. If she just wanted to return the honor of the Kojiki clan, he would certainly be willing to give her enough respect, but she actually wanted to be the first female general of Wano. This is simply, if it weren't for the unclear attitudes of several other colleagues, Kinnaman would not even bother to maintain superficial respect for Kojiki Hiri. Even so, she was just pretending to be a little girl. Kinnaman, are you questioning my decision as a general? Kojiki Hiwalangrand's voice sounded from the seats. She is not a petite, brainless, weak woman. She can be considered Anwaran. Her strength may not be as good as anyone else present, but her wisdom is not inferior. He is definitely not the kind of puppet king who poses as a mascot. At least, the basic opinions and views are still there. Kinnaman felt suffocated when he was questioned in court. Just as he was about to make a few quibbles, he looked up and met the eyes of Mitsuki Hiri. Cold, majestic, Lord Kojiki Odin. Kinnaman's pupils shrank, as if he saw a familiar figure through the woman's body. He was so frightened that he was sweating profusely, and his words were choked in his throat. Can't go up, can't go down, lose all face bastard. After he came to his senses, he thought that he, the majestic 9 heroes of the Red Scabbards, had been frightened like this by Anwaran. He became so angry that he directly mobilized his momentum, insisting on making this lord look bad. Let's see how she shows off her power. Boom, the murderous aura of the corpse mountain and sea of blood filled the air, and the surrounding temperature suddenly became much colder. Even though this guy is not a big deal in front of Bayou, he is by no means a small figure because he can become the leader of the 9 red scabbard heroes, and later even fight against Kaido. The number of souls who died under his hands is probably immeasurable. Seeing that the fierce murderous aura, wrapped in the bloody evil aura, was about to spread in front of Guanjiurai, he let her embarrass herself and find out who her father was. The next moment, a bright bolt of lightning rushed towards you from the open door. Boom, the thunder light whizzed by, wrapped in a powerful electromagnetic field force, and the electric light and lightning rushed through the air, completely destroying the murderous aura created by Kinemon. The dry charged ions made the hair of everyone present become frizzy. Not good. Kinemon's pupils shrank. The powerful samurai instinct set alarm bells ringing in his heart. Looking at the ever-amplifying lightning bolts in his field of vision, his body started to function instinctively Firefox style. Flame-splitting slash, a clear sword-drawing slash flashed across the hall, with burning flames clinging to the slash. The blazing high temperature heated and distorted the air, and everyone standing felt a sense of thirsty and intense heat. Bang, the long sword slashed forward, and with an indomitable momentum, it met the flashing thunder in the sky. Flames and lightning collided, exploding layers of fireworks. Sheng Sheng stopped this thunder on the ground. His strength was superb, and he was worthy of being the leader of the 9 red scabbard heroes. No, just when Kinemon was about to breathe a sigh of relief. In the extinguished thunder light, another dark coin suddenly burst out. It's just a hidden weapon. Kinemon, who thought he had seen through the truth, directly raised his long sword and chopped it off with confidence. Dang, a sound of gold and stone. The result was completely different from what he expected. The dark coin struck by the blade, instead of being cut in half, continued to rush forward unabated. Hai Lu Shi, when he realized something was wrong. The powerful propulsion force had already caused the coin to penetrate his blade. A gap as big as a finger appeared on his cherished sword. Who is it? Do you want to declare war on our country of Wano if you dare to act so recklessly in such a place? Kinemon looked at the open door with a solemn expression, his body full of vigilance. I am the strongest officer of the Straw Hats. Author, Super Red. Chapter 212. Tap tap tap, with the sound of footsteps, the visitor outside the door finally showed his true form. Is it you? Kinemon's pupils shrank. The person who came was obviously far beyond his expectation. Why? Didn't you ask us to come? He kept urging me. The nervous Luffy puffed out his cheeks and muttered as he didn't know what he was eating. It's true, but why did your excellency take action against us? Kinemon still said reluctantly. Anyway, the man named Bayou hasn't spoken yet, so of course he won't give in so quickly. Take action against you. It was obviously because I sensed the murderous intent and was afraid that someone had evil intentions inside and wanted to assassinate Hiri, so I identified the source of the murderous intent and took the lead to help, so as not to let the villain succeed. Nami looked at Kinemon with a half smile but not a smile. The fake smile on the little thieving cat's lips had no intention of hiding it at all. You can. After Kinemon was choked on the spot, he still struggled to say something. The little thieving cat's teasing voice sounded again on the bed. If I hadn't been interfered by Bayou just now, I wouldn't have missed the target. I shot into the soul and shot directly to the head. This is romantic, don't you think so? The same dark coin, on the fingertips of Nami's electromagnetic entanglement, kept jumping up and down, left and right, like a butterfly through a flower. The threatening meaning in it is simply self-evident. You. Kinemon was furious. He wanted to say something, but when he saw the gap in the sword, he couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. The hardness of the sword is comparable to that of a good-looking sword. It will be broken in one encounter. If it hits his head, even above the eyebrows. Kinnaman couldn't help but take a deep breath. I originally thought that Bayou was the only ruthless character in the Straw Hats, but I didn't expect that even a seemingly weak girl in the group could have such monster-like power. Thinking back to the beginning, when the three of them joined forces, they were able to blow away even Kaido. Kinnaman couldn't help but put away those unrealistic thoughts in his mind. They looked at each other without words, only with deep fear. However, he was tempted to test randomly and even spoke. Seeing that the atmosphere was getting more and more awkward, Hiri, who was sitting at the top, finally spoke. Kinnaman, please step aside. Thank you to everyone in the Straw Hats for sticking with us in times of crisis and for being willing to help us. Hiri walked up and down the seat, and walked towards the Straw Hats in a graceful manner. His face was full of gratitude, and he didn't have any airs of a general. He spoke like a spring breeze, and in an instant, the embarrassment that had just risen was gone. Disappear into the invisible. This is all Bayou's credit. He decided to take action. Luffy scratched his head with a silly smile on his face, not minding being overtaken by Bayou at all. Bayou. Hiri burst into tears and was so moved that she couldn't help but cry. He was actually willing to go against such behemoths as the Navy and the world government for his own sake. Not to mention the secret promise, Hiri now has a red heart and wants to change her surname to Bai. It was as if she thought Bayou's actions were done specially for her. No wonder it is said that a woman's IQ is 0 after falling in love. It's true. Actually. Bayou, who understood Hiri's misunderstanding, looked a little embarrassed. He was about to explain a few words, but was interrupted by a sudden intrusion. Report to the general. The Navy's warships are almost arriving at the Flower Capital. The troops stationed along the coast are unable to resist them. General, please send reinforcements quickly. The messenger warrior who broke in was trembling all over, with fear written all over him. What? Hiri Kojiki's face changed drastically. Although it had been expected for a long time that there would be a battle between Wano and the Navy. But the war coming so soon really caught Kojiki Hiri off guard. Even if he is extraordinary and has good scheming, he can after all, she was suddenly in a high position. Faced with this kind of pressure that could be called the destruction of a country, she was of course at a loss. The 9 red scabbard heroes on the field were not much better. Their faces were full of kicks and uneasiness, and even more what's more, some retainers even collapsed on the ground. They kept chanting, it's over, Wano country is completely over. The Straw Hats, who had even forgotten the thought of resisting, were already mentally prepared, and their expressions were relatively calm. Except for Upso. The guy started talking nonsense again and made up a disease for himself. Is it finally here? Bayou raised his eyebrows lightly. Instead of being afraid, his face was full of eagerness to try. Ever since he took control of the power of destruction, he has been itching. He wants to find a heavy guy to test the effect on the ground. There are all crew members on the ship, so they can't let their hands and feet go. However, when facing the world government, there is nothing to worry about. Bayou's eyes flashed with a sharp look. Without further delay, let's go to the coastline to support. By gathering the strength of warriors from all over the country of Wano, we can pull out more than 5,000 combat troops. If we delay any longer, the Navy will break through the defense line and drive straight into the hinterland. If we think about fighting again, it will not be that simple. Instead of continuing to be friendly with Hiri and explaining our love for our children, the first task is of course to deal with this wave of invasion by the Navy first. Bayou has not forgotten what his purpose is for coming to Wano country. Yep. And you, Mr. Bayou. I'm going to summon all the retainers and warriors now. Please wait a moment, my lord. As if he had grasped a life-saving straw, The eyes of the panicked Kikunobu suddenly burst out with endless light. After bowing to Kojiki Hiri, he ran away in a hurry without waiting for her to reply. Go out. I didn't even straighten my clothes. The beauty leaking under the kimono made Sanji stare. Kiku no Chen, Xiao. A stream of heat gushed out from Sanji's nose. Sanji, who was suffering from nosebleeds, threw his head back and fainted. He is indeed a pervert chef. Zoran, who was holding the green algae head, said with a look of disgust and a word, and swung a soft slash with the help of his fallen body. Don't get me wrong. He, Zoro, was not worried about this guy's hands. Simply because he didn't want to lose face to the Straw Hats in front of so many people. Baiyu couldn't help but cast his gaze towards the chaotic rear. Looking at Sanji, who had a nosebleed and fainted, Baiyu's expression became strange. I always feel like Sanji, ever since he met Kikunoho, he has awakened strange attributes. So does Zoro. Shouldn't they both? Well. Baiyu quickly shook his head, getting rid of all the unrealistic thoughts in his mind, and forced his attention to the real thing. Kikunokori has gone to summon the Wano warriors, let's get ready to go. Great. Go. Defeat the navy. I am the man who wants to become the pirate king.